Education Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
Now the next topic in our study is environmental factors that affect agricultural production. The environmental factors that affect agricultural production. Now, the productivity of crops and animals on the farm largely depend on the conditions the environments are. Now, these are the factors of the environment that could affect the productivity of crops and animals on the farm. The first one are the climatic factors. Second one are the biotic factors. The third one are the edaphic factors. The climatic factors talked about the effects of the climate and the elements of the climate. The elements of the climate include the rainfall. Now, firstly, what is climate? Climate is the average weather condition of a place measured over a very long period of time, especially above 35 years. Climate is the average weather condition of a place measured over a very long period of time, especially over 35 years. Okay? Now, there are some elements of climate that could affect the productivity of crops and animals. These include the rainfall, drought, temperature, the wind, the sunlight or sunshine, relative humidity, and solar radiation. Rainfall is the amount of water from atmosphere that's precipitated into the earth. The amount of water from atmosphere that precipitated into the earth in a particular location at a particular time is all referred to as rainfall. Sometimes a place may experience high rainfall. At times, another place may experience low rainfall. High rainfall or low rainfall, which we also call moderate rainfall or hyper rainfall, may affect the type of crops that will be grown in that area, the type of animals that will be reared in that area, and the performance of the crops and the performance of the animals in such a vicinity. Now, when you have good rainfall, crops tend to grow very well. The time of growth of the vegetative part of the plants, the time of fruiting, everything will go normally and smoothly. That's when you have the normal rainfall, which is suitable for the crops. But when the rainfall is very, very low, it will delay the growth of the crops, the germination of the seeds, the growth, and even the fruiting of the crops. And when the rainfall is so too high, it will also affect the performance of the crops also. Rainfall could also affect the kind of the pests and diseases that the animal will suffer, especially in plantation crops like cocoa. When the rain is too much, it may result in some fungal diseases that will affect the crops. Also in animals, where you have too much rainfall, every place becomes so wet, it may result in the animals getting cold and getting susceptible to certain diseases. And when the temperature is so also reduced that you do not have even enough rainfall, everywhere is dried, it also affects the animals and the crops. Now, rainfall has helped also to differentiate localities into the vegetable belts. In the northern states of Nigeria, the rainfall is very low, while in the south, the rainfall is very high. This affects the type of crops that can be grown in the south. In the south, grow crops that require more rainfall, like maybe sugarcane, like oil palm, like cocoa, like cola. In the north, you grow crops that require low rainfall, crops like wheat, crops like cereals, maize, rice generally. So they do not have, except you are growing hydromorphic or swampy rice, you might need much water. If you are growing other cereals, grass crops, then you need to go to areas where you have low rainfall. We observe also that high rainfall could also lead to infestation of disease in animals. That's a disease known as trypanosomiasis or sleeping sickness, which is transmitted by Nagana. It is caused by a trypanosoma species. This trypanosoma species, it becomes so prevalent when you have too much water or when environment is so cool and humid. That's why some animals don't do well in the south. Animals are rare mostly in the north because such area is good. You don't have tsetse fly infestation. Tsetse fly infestation is multiplied by high rainfall. Now let's go to drought. Drought actually means absence or delayed in rainfall. When the rain is suspended for a very long period of time, we call it a drought. Drought is acute dry season. When the dry season prolonged to the rainy season, then you call it the drought. Drought also affects largely, in a bad way, the survival of crops. When you have drought, crops will not have enough water from the soil to bring up the crops will not have ability to survive. Some seeds in the soil will be dying because of scorching heat from the sun. So drought has bad effect. Drought can lead to famine. So drought is not good. That is why in other parts of the country where do not have enough rainfall, we have irrigation facilities to help them when there is drought. Now we have temperature. Temperature is the degree of coldness or hotness of the body. Animals can also, when the environment is so hot, especially due to the weather, it causes what we call heat stress in animals. When animals suffer heat stress, it's like when a man has malaria, the animal will not behave well. It can even lead to the death of the animals. It can pre-expose the animals to diseases. Crops as well. When temperature is so high, crops will be drying up, they'll be wilting, the fruit will be dropping. So high temperature is not good. And when temperature is so cold, it can also affect the hormonal behavior in the body of the animals. It can also affect the crops as well. But normal temperature is good. Normal temperature is good for growth of crops and animals. Wind is defined as air in motion. Wind is air in motion. Wind is very good because wind can help in photosynthesis, in pollination rather. Wind helps in pollination. Wind also helps in drying. A lot of farmers, they spread their produce under the influence of wind for drying. Wind also helps in winnowing. Winnowing is the process by which separate grains from chaff by tossing the grain in the air. When the grains, when they are tossed, when they are thrown up in the air and they are received back, the chaff will be eliminated. That process is called winnowing. Wind also helps in proper distribution of rainfall. Sometimes because rain comes from the southwest trade wind, from the Atlantic, from the ocean, and it has to go to the inland, go to the northern sea. So if there is no good wind, then the rain will not be well distributed. But wind also helps in pollination. They carry pollen grains from the anther to the stigma. But sometimes wind can also be devastating, can be very harmful. For instance, you could have very turbulent winds which may destroy crops on the farm, which may destroy animal houses. Wind also sometimes may be so devastating that it may affect cropping season. So moderate wind is good for agricultural system, while high and turbulent wind will not be very good. Then we have sunlight or sunshine. The light radiation from the sun is what we call sunlight. Sunlight is very necessary in agriculture because it is the sunlight that the grain plant will trap, that they will photosynthesize, and they manufacture their food and store the food in the body. Crops or plants, they are primary producers, the one that produce the food that other living organisms feed on. So if there is no sunlight, crops will not be able to do well. The sunlight also helps the farmers in drying their produce. Many farmers who could not embark on a mechanical drying, they embark on the drying by solar, by sun. So it helps. Then solar energy, sunlight can be trapped into solar energy. When panels are put together to trap the rays of sunlight, this can result in generation of electricity which can be used to power equipment on the farm and the lightings as well. So we also observe that this sunlight or sunshine can also affect animals, the distribution of the animals. There are animals that don't like much of sunlight, and when this comes to be, it results in what we call heat stress. As I mentioned that time, heat stress will affect the reproductive cycle of an animal. Heat stress will affect the growth rate of an animal. The maturity stage of the animal can be affected by heat stress. Even when animals are nursing their young, heat stress may kill the young ones. So that's why sometimes we've got to control the heat or the sunshine by finding shade for the animals. If it's in the pig, we find a wallow, a water bath for the animals so that they can cool their temperature, their body temperature during the day. Heat stress can result in low production of milk in animals, can result in small egg sizes in poultry. So the farmer must make sure that he controls the sunlight the effect of scorching effect of sunlight, especially during dressing, by providing adequate shade for the crops. Even sunlight during dressing can burn the crops on the farm. If there is no water applied, the sun will be very hot, the seeds will be burning, and the crops will fail. So sunlight has good advantage. It also has some negative advantages when it is scorching. Then the next one is relative humidity. Relative humidity is defined as the amount of water in the atmosphere. Relative humidity is the amount of water in the atmosphere at a particular time in a particular place. When the atmosphere is loaded with water, every place will be humid, will be cool, and things will go smoothly. But when it becomes too much, it can predispose crops and animals to diseases. I mentioned earlier, disease known as sleeping sickness, trypanosomiasis, which is caused by trypanosome species and a protozoan, and it is transmitted by a blood-sucking insect known as a tsetse fly. Tsetse fly breeds, especially in cool area when the environment is so humid, and that is why many animals cannot be reared in the south. They will die of sleeping sickness because tsetse fly is rampant. But when the environment is averagely humid, then the animals and the plants will do well. But if the environment is also dry and the humidity is so low that the weather is so dry and dry, it can also result in diseases like catarrh and the rest in the animals. Then solar radiation. Solar radiation is the amount of heat that is generated from the sun down to the earth. Like I did mention under sunlight, solar radiation can lead to heat stress when it becomes unbearable to the animals. Now, that's all about the climatic factors. Don't forget, I mentioned that climate is the average weather condition of a place measured over a long period of time. This is different from weather. Weather is defined as the average weather condition of a place measured over a short period. A short period of time. That's why on your television you say weather forecast. They don't say climate forecast, because weather forecast is for a day or for a section of the day. Maybe in the morning, in the evening, the weather may change. But climate is a long period of time. Okay, let's go to the second part, biotic factors. Biotic, the word biotic means living, bio, life. Biotic factors are the living component of an ecosystem or living component of the environment that affect agricultural activities. Now, among them, you have soil organisms as biotic factors. You have pests, you have parasites, you have diseases, you have weeds, you have predators. You equally have human activities. What are soil organisms? Soil organisms are the organisms that live inside the soil. These include the fungi, the bacteria, the termites, the rodents, and the earthworms. These organisms sometimes might look unuseful to us as man, but scientifically, agriculturally, they are very, very useful. These organisms, they help in burrowing, in tunneling inside the soil, mixing the soil together. They help in proliferating the soil, making the soil to be aerated so that the roots could grow will move very well, so that the soil will have enough oxygen for the organism there in the soil to operate. Then these soil organisms, they also help in decomposition of organic matter. If these organisms are not there, then the organic matter will not be decomposed, and the nature will not be well preserved. So this organism, they help in decomposing the dead plant and animal remains, turning them to organic manure, which will be useful for cross uptake. Some of them also help in trapping nutrients to the soil, especially bacteria. There's a bacteria known as nitrogen fixing bacteria in the soil. Some of them are also in the roots of leguminous plants. They help in trapping nitrogen from atmosphere to the soil. Don't forget that nitrogen is the largest occurring gases in the air. Equally, nitrogen is the most essential nutrient that plant requires. It's the nitrogen that plant requires most. And this nitrogen can be trapped to the soil by the help of these bacteria. We have other effects, good effects that these organisms that they do in the soil. But sometimes they also perform negative roles. Some of them, they eat up the tubers. Can you imagine termites eating up the seeds that are planted, or even eating up the part of the yam that needed to be harvested? So sometimes these pests, they eat up these soil organisms. They eat up the seeds when you plant them. Sometimes they eat up the tuber that is growing, and again they can also cause disease to the crops. Now, soil organisms don't affect animals per se. They affect crops. Now let's go to pests. Pests are higher organisms. They are not small now. They are higher organisms, bigger ones, that affect our crops. Pests affect our crops. Examples of pests include insect pests, the rodents, the birds, and the mammals. Sometimes man can also be called pest because a man that goes to another person's farm and steal out of it is a pest. So, but majorly we identify insect pests, rodents, birds, and the mammal. Insects are of different kinds, either the bite and chewing, either the pest and sucking, or the born insect. All the insects, some of them have good rules, like bee. Bee help in pollination. They help in transference of pollen grains from the outer stigma of the flower. The insects, some of them also, maybe butterfly, also does the same work. But at some instance, most of the insects on the farm, they are harmful. They are injurious to the crops. They eat the crops, they eat the fruit, destroy the fruit, destroy the quality of the fruit, destroy the market value of the fruit, reduce the profit of the farmer. So insects, most often farmer needed to combat them, thereby increasing the cost of production by the buying of chemical to prevent them. So we also have rodents. Rodents are rat-like animals that are on the farm. They eat the tuber crops. Some of them even eat the fruit crops. They climb the trees, eat the fruit, orange, mangoes, cocoa, eat them up, destroying them, and they can transfer diseases from one plant to another. We have birds, apes. Birds are bad too. They fly from one farm to another, destroying crops, eating the edible part of the crops, especially on the rice plantation. The birds will come in large number and they destroy the crops. We have other ones like we have mammals. Mammals like monkeys, like squirrels. They go to the farm and they destroy the farm, heat it up. Some even like grass cutter will cut the plant totally out of the ground and they will kill it up. We've got to control them. Now another biotic factor is what we call parasites. Parasites are the organisms that live on other organisms where they derive benefits such as food and shelter, but they render no benefit in return, but rather cause harms or injury to the supporting organism, which we call the host. Now, there are a lot of parasites that affect the animals and plants. Take, for instance, ticks, liver fluke, tapeworm, lice. All these they are parasites of animals. While dodder, mosquitoes, they are parasites of plants. What parasite will do is to compete. Parasite will compete with the animal. We pick the food the animal is supposed to pick. If it's an animal, they cause anemia, loss of blood, because they suck the blood of the animal. They sometimes cause abdominal pains in animal because why for example, liver fluke, tapeworm, roundworm, they move from one part of the body to another, causing serious pains to the animal, hitting the food of the animal, causing reduction in stature of the animal, and if care is not taken, can lead to the death of the animal. And also, we have weeds. Weeds are equally, or before that, we have diseases. Diseases are biotic organisms because diseases are caused by living organisms. There are different types of diseases. Generally, we know diseases are categorized into maybe genetical diseases. Those are the ones that are inborn with the animal. The animal was born or the plant came with it. It was innate disease. Then apart from genetical diseases, we have malnutritional or deficient disease. These are diseases that animals come by due to poor feeding. When animals or crops are not well fed, they tend to suffer the deficiency of those nutrients that they are lacking in their food. Then we also have the third group, which we call pathogen disease. What are pathogens? Pathogens are diseases causing organisms. Organisms like fungi, like viruses, and like bacteria, like protozoa. They are terrible. Many of them cause disease in animals and in a plant. They are called pathogens. So we generally, in our Greek, we generally get ourselves concerned with pathogen diseases. When we get to disease of farm animals, disease of crops, we've got to talk more about them. Then we can also talk about malnutritional or deficient disease. Whichever way, diseases are not good. Disease will reduce the health status of the animal. Disease will reduce the growth rate of the animal, will reduce the profit of the animal, can make a farmer to have much loss, make a farmer to have reduction in harvest. Disease are to be checkmated at inception. If care is not taken, it can lead to the death of the crops or lead to the death of the animals. Then, besides the disease, We equally have weeds. Everybody knows weeds. Weeds are unwanted plants that grow among our crops on the farm. Actually, weeds grow in the natural environment because before you start your farm, there were plants that originally that were there. Those plants are called colonizers. They've colonized the place. That's their natural habitat. That's where they are living. But you want to make a farm, you clear them, you call them bush, you clear them. After you clear them, you planted your crops, they resurface again. But now you don't call them bush again, you call them weeds because you planted your crops. These weeds, because that's a natural environment, they compete better, they grow faster, they overcrowd the crops, they compete for water, they compete for air, they compete for space, they compete for sunlight, and they compete for nutrients in the soil. Most often, they are better competitors. That's why if the farm must clear the weeds at least 2 or 3 times before the growing season is over, if its crops must do well. Now, the weeds could be eradicated either manually with your cutlasses or by pulling them with your hands, or chemically with the use of chemical. We have 2 types of chemical that can control weeds. We have to call selective chemical herbicides and non-selective herbicides. Selective herbicides, when you spray them, they will kill all the weeds, they will preserve your crops. But if you use non-selective herbicides, they will destroy the crops alongside with the weeds. Okay, let's go to the next one. We have the predators. Everybody knows what predators are. Predators are organisms that feed on other organisms of their type or of another type. Now, predators, they are all on the farm too. Some of predators include birds, include rodents, include prey mantis, even snakes and all the rest. They come and attack the crops or attack the animal. For instance, where poultry farms is located, you could find some snakes that come and kill the birds or come and feed on the eggs that are laid. You also see birds too and rodents. All these are predators. Then, apart from predators, you have human activities. Human activities can also is a important factor. It can also affect positively or negatively the productivity of crops. For instance, where the land has been tampered, where land has been eroded by the activity of man, the land has lost its organic matter content. Much of the topsoil has been eroded by human activities. Then the soil does not have enough nutrient capacity, enough fertility capacity to grow and sustain the crops. Or human activities is not the way that man will go to the farm and pluck, or go to the farm and one way or the other use machines to compress the soil. The soil becomes very hard and then becomes difficult for crops to grow on such lands. The third one is what we call the edaphic factors. The word edaphic means any condition or any factor that is related to the land. Any factor related to the land or soil is called edaphic. Now, edaphic factors include soil pH, soil texture, soil structure, topography, the soil fertility, soil types, and erosion. Now, soil pH. What is soil pH? Soil pH is defined as the degree of alkalinity and acidity of the soil. The pH is ranged between 1 and 14. 7 is neutral. 1 to 6 acidic, and 8 to 14 is a neutral. The lower the pH, the stronger the acidity. The higher the pH, the stronger the alkalinity. 7 is neutral. Now, when the soil becomes acidic, when the pH is less than 7, then the soil becomes very, very acidic. And living organisms don't do well under acidic condition. Either crops or animal, even man, do not do well under acidic condition. So under acidic condition, what happens is that the soil organisms begin to die. Soil becomes so anhydrous, or becomes loss of oxygen. Because loss of oxygen, then the crops cannot be able to respire. The crops cannot be able to go about the living organisms in the soil that do the composition of organic matter cannot do the work. So soil pH, but if the soil is alkaline, most crops do well under alkaline condition of the soil. If the soil is neutral, some crops also do well, but majority of crops don't do well under acidic soil. If the soil is acidic, what you need to do is to do what you call liming. You apply lime there. Lime will neutralize the acidity and will restore your land into such that can be good for cross uptake. Then you have soil texture. Soil texture is defined as the degree of coarseness and fineness of the soil. The degree of coarseness and fineness of the soil. That is soil texture. When the texture of the soil is very smooth, it helps in the proper it helps when the soil is smooth, and it's not too coarse. It helps in water holding capacity of the soil. It helps in aeration of the soil. Then, based on texture, we have 3 types of soil for agriculture. We have the loamy soil, we have the clay soil, we have the sandy soil. The best soil is the loamy soil, of course, because it has organic matter and it's well grained. It's very loose and it's free. But if it is sandy soil are quite grained. They are too large and they will lead into leaching and erosion. They will not allow the nutrient to be retained for crops. They cannot even retain water. It has poor water capacity and poor capillarity. But if it is a clay soil is also not the best because the particles are too tiny, and though it's good in water capacity, also in capillarity, but it does not support much of agriculture. Now, soil structure. Soil structure talks about the arrangement of the particles of the soil. Is the particles well compacted together, or is the particle loose? When the particle is so compact and so thick and hardened together, it will be difficult for crops to do well, because when you plant the seeds will not be able to germinate. For it to sprout, it will take additional stress, and many of the crops may die there. When the soil is so compact together, it reduces the air. It reduces the amount of air in that soil. And when the amount of air is reduced, that is what we call soil acidity. The microorganisms will not be able to work, and the crops will not have enough oxygen for germination. Then we also have topography. Topography talks about the relief. Topography talks about the structure of the landscape. Is it flat? Is it undulated? Is it sinusoidal? Is it mountainous? Is it rocky? Is it hilly? What is the surface of the soil? The surface of the soil has much to be desired of when it comes to agriculture. If the surface of the soil is so flat or gentle slope, good for agriculture, it will be good. But if the surface is sharply graded, is so slopey, so steepy, you know that one can cause erosion. It won't be very good, palatable to erosion for agriculture, for plant or crops. It will cause you to do a lot of things, like terracing, like contour striping, to check the erosion. Of course, you can be able to plant there. Then you have soil fertility. Soil fertility is defined as the amount of organic matter content of the soil at a particular time, though it may vary because the soil might exhaust its fertility at a time. But the amount of organic matter in the soil at a particular time is called soil fertility. Fertile soil is required for good survival of crops. When the soil is so fertile, when it's rich in organic matter content, when the macro minerals and micro minerals are there in required quantity, yes, it supports good growth of the crops. But when this is lacking, crops will not do very well. Instead, the farmer hates it with application of manure or fertilizer. Then we have soil types. Soil types also another factor. I have told us for agriculture we have 3 types of soil. Although universally we have 7 types of soil universally. We have what we call the stones, the gravel, the fine gravel, before you come to the sand, the coarse sand, the fine sand, the seeds, and the clay. But for agriculture, we have just 3 types of soil for agriculture. We have what to call the sandy soil, we have to call the clay soil, clay, sand is adjective, clay adjective, then you have the loamy soil. Those are 3 types of soil we have for agriculture based on the sizes of the particles and based on the mineral matter content, organic matter content of the soil. The best soil for agriculture is loamy soil, because loamy soil particles are averagely grained. They are not too big like the sandy soil, and they are not too small like the clay soil. It's a mixture of sand and clay plus organic matter. Loamy soil is the best soil for agriculture. If the soil is not rich in organic matter, then farmer could apply chemicals in form of fertilizer or manure to beef up the organic matter content of the soil. The last one that factor is what we call soil erosion. Soil erosion. Soil erosion is the situation whereby the soil is exposed to solvent runoff of water, maybe after rainfall, which washes away the topsoil alongside with the organic matter. When this happens, it's like bleaching the soil. You have bleached all the topsoil, all the organic matter, all the humus have been bleached. The remaining one will not have enough organic and mineral content to support growth of crops. Hence, when crops are grown on such soils, they look thinner, they look weakly and sickly, and they don't even grow well. They don't fruit well. Many of them die before they reach the time of maturity. So erosion is not good on the farm. It has to be checked. Now, the next topic is rocks and rocks formation. Rocks and rocks formation. What are rocks? Rocks are basic mineral components of the earth crust. Rocks are basic mineral components of the earth crust. What it means is that the earth consists of rocks. Everything you can take from the earth, out of the earth, is a rock. Good. Now, what are the types of rocks? There are many types of rocks, quite large number of them. But they are categorized into 3 groups based on their color, on their texture, on their mode of formation, on their hardness, and their resistance to erosion. I repeat, there are many types of rocks, but they are classified into 3 groups based on their color, based on their texture, on their mode of formation, on their hardness, and on their resistance to erosion. The 3 groups now, 3 classes of rocks, which are classified into now are the igneous rocks, the sedimentary rocks, and the metamorphic rocks. Again, the igneous rocks, the sedimentary rocks, and the metamorphic rocks. Now let's go to the igneous rocks. The word igneous means burning, to ignite, to spark, to make of fire. That is igneous. That's to ignite. That means igneous rocks are the rocks that are formed from very hot zone, from kind of fiery condition. Igneous rocks are formed from the cooling and solidification of the molten magma. Magma, M-A-G-M-A. Magma is also called the liquid rock. You see, magma is formed at the great depth beneath the earth crust when the parent materials and the bedrock are exposed to great heat and pressure, and because of that they now melted. Don't forget, it's often said that the lower you go, the hotter it becomes, and the higher you go, the cooler. So as you are going deep into the earth, beneath the earth, you have big rocks. Because these big rocks are subject to heat, they tend to melt. And when they melt, that plate does not contain them, cannot contain them again. They find a way of escaping to the surface. That process of coming to the surface is called eruption. And when they erupt, we call it volcanic eruption. But there are 2 types of igneous rocks. We have the plutonic igneous rocks and the volcanic igneous rocks. The plutonic igneous rocks are equally called the intrusive because they form inside the soil, while the volcanic igneous rocks are called the extrusive because they are formed outside the soil, outside the soil surface. Okay, how do we get plutonic and how do we get the volcanic igneous rocks? Now, when the molten magma, the rocks melt to form the molten magma, the liquid rock, at or high temperature underneath the earth, the molten magma tend to move up because that place becomes unstable under that place. It gets to a certain stage and then tend to move out of the soil. So it moves toward the surface. As the magma moves to the surface, it meets with cooler temperature and thereby cool. If the magma moves with low speed, maybe because the upper layers are very dense and thick, the magma will be moving slowly. So it cools and solidifies before it reaches the surface to form large crystals of rock. Examples are gabbro, granite, and diorite. I repeat myself. Plutonic rocks are formed where the molten magma molten magma liquid rock, moves slowly from beneath of the earth of the soil to the surface, moving slowly and cooling as they are moving up, thereby solidifying before reaching the earth's surface to form large crystals of rock. In later years, this could be exposed by men working on the land. The igneous rock formed under the earth, plutonic igneous rocks could be exposed. Examples are gabbro, granite, and diorite. Then we have the volcanic igneous rocks. These are rocks that are formed when the molten magma moves rapidly through the surface to the surface and escape through the cracks on the soil and escape to the soil surface where they solidify to small crystals of rocks. That's the volcanic igneous rocks. Again, the volcanic igneous rocks, they are formed when the molten magma moves rapidly towards the surface of the soil, and they escape through cracks and splits out of the soil surface on the soil surface, where they now cool and solidify to form small crystals of rock. The known example is basalt. Now let's look at the characteristics of igneous rocks. Igneous rocks, they are glassy in appearance. They are like glassy, shiny and sparkling. They have luster. That means they have brightness. They sparkle. Then they are crystalline in structure. They are like crystals. 3. They did not occur in layers. Igneous rocks are not in layers. They are not well arranged and well packaged. They look so glassy and rough. They don't look appeared in layers. 3. They are not stratified. The same thing as not being layers. Stratified means layers. 4. They do not contain fossils. What are fossils? Fossils are impressions on the rock of the dead and decomposed and decayed animals, especially animals that have died many years ago, whose shape have been impressed on the rock. So in the igneous rocks, you do not have fossils. You can only have fossils in sedimentary and in some metamorphic rocks. Then they are hard and impervious. They are very hard. When we say they are very hard, that means they cannot be broken easily, and they are impervious. That means water cannot penetrate them. They are impregnable to water. They are very hard. They are impervious. Then they are resistant to erosion. Means that if there is erosion that carry them, erosion cannot break them and cannot penetrate them. Those are the igneous rocks. Now let's move to the second type of rocks, which we call sedimentary rocks. Again, sedimentary rock. That word is taken from the word sediment. Sediments are materials that are carried from a place and they sent to another place, and they pile up and solidify to become one. That was called sediment. From the word sediment, we look at the adjective sedimentary rocks. Now, sedimentary rocks are rocks that are formed when materials are carried either by wind or by water or by ice from one place, and they are carried and deposited to another place, where they compress together and hand it together to form the rock, sedimentary rocks. There are 3 types of sedimentary rocks. We have what to call mechanically formed sedimentary rocks on the board. We have what to call organically formed sedimentary rocks, and then we have what to call the chemically formed sedimentary rocks. The mechanically formed sedimentary rocks, they are formed when another rock materials are carried and deposited in layers where they solidify and harden together. So mechanically formed sedimentary rocks, they are formed from hard materials from another rocks. Examples include shale, clay, breccia, sandstone, and conglomerate. I take it again. Examples of mechanically formed sedimentary rocks are shale, clay, breccia, sandstone, and conglomerate. Now let's look at the organically formed sedimentary rocks. The organically formed sedimentary rocks, they are formed when organic materials, plants and animals, are carried and by water, by wind, ice, and are deposited to a new place where they compress and add together to form rocks. So if it is organically formed, it's either that rock will be formed from plant or it will form from animal. When it is formed from plant, it is called carbonaceous rock. What do I call it? Carbonaceous rocks. But when formed from animal material, we call it calcareous. Can you repeat that? Calcareous. Carbonation from carbon. Calcareous from calcium. You know, the building block of plant is carbon, while the building block of animal is calcium. So when a plant decomposes, it goes to carbon. Animal decomposes, it goes to calcium. So the rock that they form from plant materials, we call it carbonaceous. The one formed from animal material, we call it calcareous. Examples of carbonaceous rock include coal, peat, P-E-A-T, lignite, and petroleum. While examples of calcareous rocks include limestone and chalk. Then we go to chemically formed sedimentary rocks. Chemically formed sedimentary rocks, they are rocks that are formed when rock material dissolves and are carried to another place where they precipitate and add it together. So we can now say that chemically formed sedimentary rocks, they are formed from the precipitation of a rock solution. When it's precipitate and the rock solution can compress to form the soil. Examples include gypsum, dolomite, sodium chloride, potash, and nitrate. I take it again. Examples include gypsum, dolomite, sodium chloride, potash, and nitrate. Okay, now look at the characteristics of sedimentary rocks. Number one, sedimentary rocks, they occur in layers or strata. They are in layers. They are coarse in texture. That means they are not smooth. They are not crystalline. That means they cannot exist in crystals. Note this: only igneous rock can remain as crystals. Only igneous rocks are crystalline. Sedimentary and metamorphic, they are non-crystalline in structure. Then they contain fossils of plants and animals. I've told you fossils are remnants of plants or animals that are impressed on the rock after many years. Now, they are not resistant to erosion, meaning the erosion can pass through them. They are soft and they react with weak acid, e.g. dilute hydrochloric acid. Now, let's move to metamorphic. The word metamorphic is adjective. It means change of appearance. The word meta is change. The word morph is morphology, which is appearance. Metamorphic rocks. They are rocks that have changed their look. They have changed their appearance. So they were originally a type of rock, but their physical structure changed, but they retain their internal structure and qualities. So metamorphic rocks are formed when a pre-existing rock is subjected, or when pre-existing rocks are subjected to great heat and pressure of the environment. They tend to change physiologically, but they retain their quality inside. They are metamorphic rocks. Examples of metamorphic rocks include slate, marble, quartzite, gneiss, schist, and graphite. Again, examples of metamorphic rocks include slate, marble, quartzite, gneiss, schist, and graphite. Now, slate is formed from clay, marble from limestone, quartzite from sandstone, gneiss from granite, schist from shale, and graphite from coal. Don't forget, all these ones are other rock in existence. Clay is under mechanically formed. Limestone is under organically formed. Sandstone is under mechanically formed. Granite is igneous rock. Shale is mechanically formed, and coal is carbonaceous rock. So all these rocks that are put here, they will change and transform and will form this. So clay will form slate, limestone will form marble, sandstone will form quartzite, granite will form gneiss, shale will form schist, coal will form graphite. These are metamorphic rocks. What are the characteristics of metamorphic rocks? Number one, some of them may occur in layers, especially if they are formed from sedimentary rocks. Then they may be hard or soft, depending on their parent materials. They are not crystalline. I have told you, only the igneous rocks are crystalline. Sedimentary and metamorphic are not crystalline. Next, they may contain fossils. And lastly, they exist in different colors and texture. They exist in different colors and texture. We want to look at the economic importance of rocks. Economic importance of rocks. Now, rocks have several importance and value that it adds to man. Number one, rocks help in the formation of soil. Don't forget that it is when rock break down that will form soil. That process is called weathering. Weathering is the gradual and continuous breaking down of rock material to form soil. So rock, number one, rocks help in the formation of soil. Number two, rock is a major source of plant nutrients. The plant nutrients like macro minerals and micro minerals. Macro minerals are needed in large quantity. Examples are nitrogen, oxygen, calcium, magnesium, sulfur. They are all required in large quantities. But the micro ones are required in smaller quantities. Most of them are transitional elements, such as the iron, the copper, the zinc, the cobalt, the molybdenum, the manganese. All these ones are minor or trace elements, but they are required by plants and they are present in the soil. So the rock produces a source of plant nutrients. Then we also use rock for construction purposes. Where construction is going on, construction of building, you use rocks. Rocks also used in control of erosion. Anywhere you have erosion menace, people put rocks, which we call stones, and put it across the erosion so that it does not disturb the movement of machines and man. Now, rock also could start as obstacles to the farm animals or on the farmland to the machines. When the farmland is, when they have a lot of these rocks on the farm, they can obstruct the movement of the machines. Then they can be used for sharpening of tools. In those days, before we have files, our fathers, they used stones to file their tools. Today, it's on remote areas of the world. People still use stones, from which we also use form of rock to file stones, to file tools. Then domestic uses, we use rock as a grinding stone. That grinding stone you have in your grandma's house is a type of rock. So then we use it as a source of metal like gold, silver, copper, aluminum. All these are metals and they are rocks. Again, as ornaments, women try to use ornaments as trinkets, as necklace, as a pendant in their necklace, their bracelets. They use stones, precious stones. They call it. It's a type of rock. They use to make ornaments. Source of fuel, petroleum, as well as coal. They are rocks and they are used as fuel. Then we have source of food to man. We observe that sodium chloride, which is a type of organic chemically formed rocks, is a type of rock. Then we also have raw materials for industries. A lot of industries depend on rock to do their work, e.g. dolomite and gypsum, which is used in the glass industry as well as the paint industries. Now, we also use rocks for construction purpose. I've said that, for building of road and houses. Then we can also use rock as a center of tourism, like in Ogun State. People go to see Olumo Rock. It's a source of tourism. And lastly, we can use it as a research. We can use rock as a research. When we want to know particular a type of incident in a particular place, we might decide to go and pick the rocks in that area and use that experiment to decode the time that an incident takes place. Now, this marks the end of rocks and rocks formation.